In this video, we are exploring how to implement JWT authentication in Node.js application. In a real-world scenario, when users perform the login process, we do expect to have the authentication layer in order to validate the user name and password or user credential and provide a JWT or a token for authentication process. Once user have the token, it's look like an access key that we can tap in and then get access to unlock the door in the web application. In order to start with this process, we mainly need a npm package called JSON Web Token. And what that package is helping us is to give us, some functionality in order to provide the signature process and verification process at the same time. When we are looking into the JSON Web Token, we understand that the JSON Web Token incorporates header, payload, and then we create the signature. So the signature normally consists of the header itself, it consists of the payload, right? So and it has the secret as well. The payload normally is the data that we wanted to take in as a username, password, role, or any other things that we wanted to prepare the token based upon that. And the token is nothing but a hashed string. To make that happen, right, so in our backend service, we need to install, of course, JSON Web Token. It does create or provide us the sign module, which the token will be sent to a response upon we create the token, and it's going to be used in any subsequent request. When we are saying subsequent, it can also be used to protect some other routes in the application, which simply provide the access to the end user to navigate through the other routes in the application. To verify this, we need a verification function which compare the actual token which the one that user has. And if we are having a forged token, so we should be able easily to catch this up. When we are looking into the JWT login process, so the idea is going to be started by the time that we generate the JWT token once user has the successful authentication. Successful authentication means we do compare the username and password with some data sets like the database itself. And once we have that, we do provide the login successful or the token itself. So then the client can, read this information and send the JWT back to the server to show that, oh, I am an authorized user, let me in, right? And then since it's digitally signed on the server, right? So using a secret, we can verify that the data has not been tampered with, and and nobody tried to forge and then sell us a stolen kind of token, right? So to access their data. This diagram is going to show us how user authentication and authorization sequence, look like. At the beginning, at the very top, so you can see that here we do have the authentication process. During that process, what happened? So the client is trying to get access to a specific route, like /login, and then provide us, the username and password. So then the authentication server, what it does, it's going to validate, that user against, a kind of database, right? So we are looking into the database, make sure that that username and password is valid. And then we're going to generate the token and then send that token back to, the client. The client may store that token in a cookie, in a session, or in local storage, whichever makes sense. And then the next step is that in upcoming requests, like user wanted to get access to our /post/dashboard. So then user need to incorporate the token itself, right, with the word in the authorization header. So this is going to be in the header section of the HTTP request by incorporating the word bearer and etc. How this is going to look like, right? So it refers to the standards that we have in the OpenAI documentation. And if you look at the bearer authentication over there, so it's going to tell you, all right, so the bearer authentication is the HTTP authentication scheme in which you are going to incorporate authorization and then bearer and the token itself. It follows the same standards like Auth 2.0 or any other RFCs which is related to that part. And of course, it ties with the HTTPS or SSL or TSL layer. So back to the slide over here. So the bearer token that we just discussed, right? So is going to be a kind of container that we can capsulate, credential, user credential, and then it works exactly like a bearer, right? So of credential, and everyone can process that token if they have, the kind of way to verify that token. And the standard for us, right, so is incorporating this token, right, so in this regard. So the first example that we are going to explore today, right, so is example number one, right, so which I'm providing this in the, in the documents. In that example, right? So if we take a closer look, right? So we do have a simple Node.js application, right? So in which we are having some maybe data. Our data is hard coded, called posts. It has username and title and etc. And then here we do have the process of slash post. If somebody wanted to get access to this post, it needs to be a verified user. So the verification process that I'm doing in this application, right, so is in this way. So if I use my highlighter, the function name is going to be verify token, and it's the exact same function that I'm using here in my endpoint with the slash post as a middleware. So what I'm doing in that function is that I'm looking into the header and I'm finding the authorization header. I'm looking for the bearer token over here and then return that token, right? So if I could find the token, I can let user to go. By what? By doing this, by doing the verification here. So I'm taking the token, I'm looking into the secret key that I have, and then passing this to the JWT.verify to make sure that user is a valid or authorized user or not. And if it does, so then I'm going to show the data in the output. I do have the process over here for maintaining, the login as well, in which we are asking user to provide you what's your username, what's your password. So we do create a signature over here based on the secret key that we have in the env file, and then with that, token, we can proceed to the next level. And our env file is just very simple, just nothing but just the secret. And remember, secret should be a hashed item over here. So to just give it a shot, right? So I'm gonna go back here and then run the app, right? So and then I'm gonna go to the Thunder client using the slash posts here, right? So and I'm gonna send it and it tell me, sorry, you are an authorized user. Okay, fair enough. I'm gonna go to the slash login, right? And then in the slash login, I'm gonna change this into the post since you can see that in my application login is gonna be the slash post. And then over here, so I need to provide, the username like admin, right? So, and I'm providing some sort of password over here at the same time. So I'm making sure this is the username correctly here listed and then send it in. As soon as I do that, it's going to return the token, right? You see, the login process should return the token for me as a client, and then I can use this token to get access to the posts. So I'm going to copy this token from here, and I'm going to change this to the get, and I'm going to change this into the POSTS, right? And I'm going to send it in. Still, I'm unauthorized access, but I can go to the header. I can click this up, right? And I can do authorization here. And then I can type here the word bearer, right? And then paste that token here. If I do that, so then I'm good. I should get those posts successfully. I can take this off, right? So, and then send it in. So I'm still unauthorized since I'm not using this authorization. But if I do use authorization, I'm good with that. And this is why, in a verification function, I'm looking for this authorization, and at the same time, so I'm trying to find that space, right? So between the word bearer and the token itself, and then it helps me to catch the token. There is another way that I can handle this. Instead of sending authorization in this way, I can go to the auth inside Thunder client, and you can see that here we have non-basic auth 0 and etc. I can paste the token over here, and I can take a look, right? So it's working for me as well. So two ways of doing the same job. And not to mention that, so you can always go back to the JWT and then copy this, right? So right click and then paste, right? So here is the token that I had, admin, and then here is the token that is being created. And you see that, so the token is exactly created at the same time that I'm recording this video, right? So to just give you the idea. Um, we understand that, right? So when we wanted to do the login process, we probably working with some database. In the first example that I just shared with you, there wasn't any database, right? But now, if we wanted to have a real login process, we need to have connection to the MongoDB, let's say, using the find one command. Um, Compare the password. If the password is encrypted using bcrypt or any other hash mechanism, we need to make that happen. And then we need to create our auth middleware, right? So when we have the database again, it doesn't really matter, but the rest of the job is pretty much similar to what we just discussed. And that brings us into our second example here. So I'm going to stop the first one and I'm going to go to the second example, which we have it on the comments. So I'm going to wipe out these things over here, and then let's look at the number two. So I'm going to run the app and explain to you quickly how this app look like. So the second app that I have over here, so it's having the server.js, and we are trying to connect to MongoDB. So we are having some routes. You can see that the routes are going to be /API/auth, right? Since we are using the app.use. And then we do have the routes over here, which contains, the /login again, /register, and what else, right? /protect. And in the /protect, I'm using a kind of middleware function that I designed it myself, and it's located inside the middleware, in which, again, so looking into the authorization header, so comparing, the token with what it should be, right? So, and thumbs up, thumbs down if the validation is correct. Since we are using the database, we do use the model. Our model try to get access to our database, and then here is the maybe process that we're gonna check whether the password is being encrypted using the bcrypt, and we are using the 10 as a salt amount. So looking into the env, right? So we are taking the database like this. We are listening to the port 3000, and here is the secret as well. So I'm running this app right now, and what I am going to do, so I'm going to just simulate, what is going to happen. So first thing first, I'm going to go to the server.js. I noticed that this is a /API/auth, right? So I'm going to do that. So here, so /API/auth, right? And then our protected route over here is protected, called protected, right? So I do that. It says that no, you are unauthorized user. Okay, fair enough. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to perform a kind of registration process looking into the auth.js, right? So I guess the registration process is going to be happen by going to the /register, which I'm going to do that, register, and then change this to the post method. And then over here, so in the body, so I'm going to have admin number 2, right? So username is this. And I need to take a look on, I need to provide email as well. So I'm going to provide a comma email, right? So, and that is going to be admin2@abc.com. Okay, so that's good, right? So register. So I'm going to do that. So it says that user is being created. So in order to see where this user is being created, so I'm going to go to my auth DB here. So, and if you look at the very last record over here, here is my admin2, and the password that is being created in a hash way, right? So etc. etc. So everything is good, right? So my user is being created, and then if I go to the login here, so with the same username and password, so it's going to give me successful login, and it's going to give me the token again. I'm copying this token, right? And then now I would like to get into the protected, right? So route with the get method, right? And I'm gonna send it in, right? So of course I'm still not authorized. I go to the auth here, and then bearer token, send it up, welcome. So uh, that's what it is, right? So, and if I look at the database, so you notice that the ID that I'm seeing here at the top, right? So it's probably the same ID, right? So that is for admin2, right? So you see that here. So it's the same ID. So ends with 5C, 655C. Yeah, it's correct, right? It's a correct one. The second example was exactly like the first one, but we were trying to use database as well. So Um, let's go to the next level, which we wanted to secure a web API with JWT. We learned about the JSON Web Token, but we wanted to understand two new NPM packages. First one is Passport. Second one is Passport JWT. What we were doing so far, right? So in the practice, right? So we learned that we have created our own middleware, right, to do the verification process. And then we use that middleware. So by the time that we wanted to have the protected route, we were incorporating our custom middleware over here. But Passport and Passport JWT, right? So their sole purpose is to authenticate, which it does through the extensible set of plugin known as a strategy. So it's like a container. It keeps the token and whatever other additional material that you wanted to have. You can initialize that passport. You can help it for the protected route, and it incorporates the JWT itself. So we called strategy, right? So on the first part, and then we are going to utilize that strategy later, including the verification process. Here is what we are thinking. The passport and passport JWT needs to be loaded at the beginning, and then we need to set it up, right? So with the fact that it's a JWT from the request, and here is the secret. And we are using, right? So from auth header as bearer token. Good enough. So then we define our strategy. So the strategy is incorporating the payload, which has username, full name, and role in our example. Normally, user management part in many web application consists of username, password, role, and user role is very important. And then we do tell the passport to use our strategy. You see, in traveling, right? So we use passport to just pass the visa gate, right? And the passport includes so many other information. So we have the same logic here. We have the passport, it includes some information, and then we initialize that, uh, add the token to it, and then whenever we wanted to pass the gate, so we just show our passport, right? So instead of having a custom user definition, so in that regards, we do use passport dot authenticate. And then we are saying that, okay, here is the JWT. So you can have session, you may not have session, and then you can get access to every data, right? So and then display it. You see, it's a better process, right? So since we need to employ the passport middleware authenticate function to restrict access to our protected route. Okay. So to understand how this works, we go to the third example that I have provided here in this video. So, and this was a simple API example that we wanted to approach, right? So let me just get rid of all these things here, and then run my application here. Let's go. So look into this. So this application has a data service file JS, right? So which has some vehicle list name, nothing fancy. We do have a user service, which as you can imagine, so it helps me to go to the database, right? Connect to the database. My database has username, password, role, right? And then it try to ensure that the user is being stored properly in the database when it's registered. And then when it comes to the check, right? So we do check the user properly. Nothing fancy. And then in the server.js, what we do here is that we just incorporate, this strategy part. You can see that as a part of a strategy, we are using our secret key, and make sure the secret key always need to be a long hash type of things. And then we are using the payload, right? So, and then we are using initializing that. Okay, and the rest is the same, right? So here's my protected route, here is my register. You see that I'm using a registered user to just register a new user to the app, and then login process. So the login has the sign again, right? And that's it. So the difference between the new version and the previous one is the passport works for us as a middleware, right? So to some extent, I do have my database. I guess in this example, what I'm looking for, so I'm using the ABC, kind of database in my case. So if I look at the ABC, so I do have a user over there. So I can create a new user, but I can keep using the same one. So let's go ahead and then do that. So I'm gonna go with the slash login. Okay. So I'm gonna go with the slash login with the post, right? So and I'm gonna get in. I guess I should go with the slash API slash login. Sorry about that. So let's go with the slash API slash login here, and then it's gonna be the post command. Wait a second. So what's happening here? So I'm having the slash login process, which is fine, and I do have the API slash vehicles. So let's check that first. So I'm gonna go to the get method slash API slash vehicles, right? So send it in, right? So it's gonna tell me no. Oh, sorry about that. I guess I'm in the wrong process, right? So one more time. Okay, so I'm gonna go to this, and then it's gonna tell me no. So it's not correct. You see unauthorized. And if I go to the slash login here, login, and then change this to the post method, and it's going to tell me, I'm sorry, I couldn't find this user. The username that I'm looking for is going to be admin2, but in the database is admin, and then make sure here is the N capital. Okay, so change this to fancy change here, and then admin, and then the rest should be fine. I don't need email as well, so I'm going to get rid of that email things, and then there we go. Again, I'm logging in with the user admin. Password is 12345. Taking in the password, copy this password, and going to the slash vehicles to see the vehicle list in the get method by incorporating the bearer token, right? So in this particular example, and there we go. So we got the data. So you see, the process over here is almost very common with the rest of the practice. First practice, no database. Second practice with database, with a custom middleware for protected route. And the third one, we are taking the advantage of Passport and Passport-JWT. So I hope you can look into the codes and then help yourself to go deep dive into what I just explained, and then we can use this approach in the front end as well. Like if you are thinking to have an Angular application in future, right? So the Angular application, we're going to use the JWT module, right? So to work with that, we can incorporate the authentication service to the application. We can have a login component. We can have route guard, which is the concept or like a service for the protected routes, of course, in the front end. And we do have the HTTP interceptor right? So as a package to be included and help us with the authorization header. The authorization, the word authorization is going to be injected automatically, right? So in the process, when we do have this check mark over here, so and it's going to be done in that way. So, looking into the incorporating JWT in the Angular project, of course, we need to proceed with the importing some packages. One of the main functionality that we have is having a method for reading the token called token getter, and that helps us to get access to the local storage to read the token, right? So that's how it works. And then, of course, we need to save the token sometime when we do the logging. And I guess that's going to be set item, local storage that's set item, which you can store the token. So your login process is going to be taking username and password called the slash login, receiving that slash login from the UI, and then storing this in the local storage. And then when we have this local storage things, we can of course read the token in upcoming process. Here it is, right? So we do the login, store the token in the local storage, and then after that login process is being done, so we can inject that token in upcoming HTTP calls. So we do have a service to just use that service to incorporate the token, right? And then if the token is verified, then user can allow to go to the a private part of the website and then get access to the dashboard or whatever it is. I hope this simple solution or maybe video could help you to explore more on the JWT authentication in the Node.js process.